Hi, I'm Stefanie Kulberg, and I'm here today with Chelsea Wolcott. She is the Alliances Manager here at LaunchPad Lab, and we are going to be talking about New York World Tour 2025. Thank you for chatting with me today about World Tour. Having just been there, I just want to get a sense of like, what was it like? What are your takeaways? What was the vibe? Tell me all about it.
Yes. I think the overall, I know obviously with the name being Agentforce, we were going to see Agentforce everywhere. But I think the thing that stood out to me was, and I almost feel like Agentforce and AI go together, but there was a lot more AI, and it almost like felt like Salesforce has, I know that this is not the case, but they've almost talked about Agentforce as the platform. It's the Agentforce platform and the digital labor force. And there was a session that was around data cloud and how all of this, bringing all your data together and what you can do with it afterwards. They were referencing a game and they were saying what you could dream about 5 years ago happening is actually where we're living right now. And so it's almost a little uncomfortable for CIOs and CTOs to think about how do you approach the next version of technology in your business, because we're living in a time where there are less rules and there's less structure around what we have done versus what will be done in the future. The overall sense that I got was like we are actually living in the future and we're having to make decisions, and customers have to make decisions on things that are happening in the future that we actually have no idea.
Well, it's interesting because we've talked about this amongst ourselves that this isn't your typical shift that happens every decade, every 5 years, where like it's incremental, something just sort of happens that impacts all industries. This is a seismic, huge shift that's happened. Where people have referenced this on our side of the house, where like we'll talk about how the internet being invented, nobody knew that that was going to be like your central touch point for how everything operates. Now AI enters and it flips everything that you learned of what you can do with your tech, with the internet on its head, and businesses need to take the time to rethink what that means for them. Imagine the unimaginable and see how you can make that happen. I'm curious, in that session, like, did they give you any pointers as to what people are doing or thinking or where they should focus as first steps?
Yeah, I think one of the things was you shouldn't have to work so hard to get the data that you want to take action on. There are tools, obviously, Salesforce being a very large one, where you can tie all of this in together versus years before, you're integrating different systems, different point solutions, because maybe that isn't handled on one platform. And that's not the case anymore, where you can see everything across Salesforce and then take action on that, whether that's from a marketing perspective, analytics, whatever you want to do. The data should not be hard to get and make decisions on. And that was like the overwhelming theme for me. You have the ability to do this. Are you doing it? And if you're not doing it, your competitors are doing it. So how does that make you feel? And you need to take action on this now. The development timeline is so much shorter for doing that sort of thing. And there are always obviously going to be tools that you can layer on that are very niche and are going to satisfy whatever need that maybe Salesforce isn't going to hit on. But there is so much that can be done on the platform now. It is just kind of mind blowing. And implementing something or integrating something is not a barrier anymore. That is like the expectation, is that these are all speaking to each other. You have a full picture of what's going on. If you can dream it, you can do it now, not you can do it in 5 to 10 years.
But the focus, it sounds like, is having a single source of truth for information, depending upon what your business operating model is. So if you have a service organization, making sure that your service reps have a centralized resource for the information to action on. If you have a sales organization, having that centralized resource for their sales. If you have the marketing lens, that's where your focal point should be. And that's the starting point of making sure that you've got all information pumping into a single resource. And now that's realistic to do.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about you saying that, where you have like the sales kind of swim lane, the service swim lane, the marketing swim lane, was those lines are almost being blurred now because of AI. Because what someone may have just done or relied on one department to do Now you can bounce those ideas off of AI and come to a conclusion a lot quicker. And then it's almost like you're 10 steps ahead of where you would have been. Even going, it's not like these departments are never, they're still going to have their separate things that they're doing and value that they're adding. But instead of going into a meeting to say, like, hey, let's talk about all of this, the history, where we're at and where we're going, AI can have you so much further into that conversation so that you can figure out, okay, what's the highest value thing that we can take action on now? And that was really interesting too, because it's the lines are being blurred for the better and it's up leveling everyone else. And one of the other things that folks were talking about was like the idea of high value versus low value work and offloading some of the lower value work onto AI. Some of this might not even be inspiring for someone to do, moving something from one system or a PDF into Salesforce. There are probably some people that would enjoy that, but there's probably a large majority of people that are saying, well, that wouldn't be very fun for me to just literally transcribe numbers and letters all day into different systems. What else could we be doing? Is there a higher value role that this person could be playing at this organization if that is automated? So there were some conversations around that too, of like rethinking what a role could look like in your company, not letting go of somebody, just how can you introduce AI and data into that person's role to make them more productive, effective, valuable to the organization.
Interesting. Bringing it full circle, you have the single source of truth. AI helps you layer on and take that input, action on it, maybe automate some steps, and then give more high value details or actions for humans to respond to, in which case humans now need to almost level up their skills. It's challenging them to do better because the more is happening from the AI side of the house. And that way it's a more strategic move from
Mhm.
the org to bring in a human at a certain point.
Yeah, I think most of the folks that were at World Tour are embracing, it seems, AI and certainly Agentforce and like ways that we can uplevel ourselves. But I heard a phrase probably a year ago or so where it was AI isn't going to take over your job. Someone that's using AI is going to take over your job. So you better get on board. And it just felt like everybody was like wrapping AI in a big hug there. And we're like, how can it make me better? And up level me. And obviously there's a lot of admins just trying to learn and like immerse themselves in what is Salesforce offering, what are the Salesforce partners offering, ISVs, SIs, all of that. It's always really cool going to World Tour because you just see people's minds open up and light bulbs going off for folks and the various different sessions that they have. I sat in one about MuleSoft, it's a data cloud, a couple on Heroku, both hands-on and more kind of just philosophical sessions. I always like that Salesforce does a mix of those because at an event like this, sometimes it's nice to just kind of sit back and be like, how am I thinking about this? How is the organization that I'm with thinking about this? And are they having these conversations at a higher level, or is this something that I should be bringing to them? And we should be having a bigger conversation.
Were there things that you saw at World Tour that were like your head was scratching? You're like, oh, we do that, and we should keep doing that. We should lean into that more because people are really interested in that type of work. Are there things that we need to sort of change on our side of the house based on what you saw?
We've done a really nice job of leaning into AI and not resisting it. Resisting it is not an option. I know there are people that are still doing it. I've talked to them, and I just am so curious what the world's going to feel like in a couple of years when they've kind of like dug their heels in. But we haven't. We have very much leaned into it. And I think our clients feel that too, because we can have these big idea conversations with them and it doesn't feel out of the realm of possibility. Clients who we've worked with to create entirely new revenue lines for them by leveraging AI. That's so crazy. Like 5 years ago, being able to say you are going to have an entirely new line item that your business is offering because of AI, something that did not exist back then, is so mind blowing. Even when we're talking with clients, they have an idea of what they think they could do, think way bigger. And I think sometimes we think about, okay, what is an action that I do that's manual today that can be automated? Like that's a very simple use case for how AI can help you or make your life better personally or professionally. But there's so much more that you can be doing. And I think that's a lot of the conversation that we help facilitate, where we're like, great, that's great that you're thinking like that. What else? Dream state. We truly are living in a dream state now.
Just to play it back, it sounds like what we're doing is we're adopting an AI mindset in the way that we approach everything, but also in working with our clients, we're challenging them to start with the MVP, like a micro set of things, but then also think big vision of where they can take that test and then expand because you don't have to be so limited in what you're looking to accomplish. Like, yes, accomplish that goal if it's critical for you, but how can you take that and then expand?
The other thing too is I'm really excited for organizations to start to really turn on the AI stuff externally. Like everyone's still doing internal AI. I get it. There's a security aspect. Folks are nervous. That was actually something else that came up in one of the sessions of when you turn on AI externally, you want to make sure that you're telling your AI, we don't want to recommend competitors. And one thing that Salesforce ended up doing when they turned on Agentforce was they instructed the tool Agentforce to say, I want you to act like a product marketer and have Salesforce's best intentions when you're answering these questions. Then that comes to like the question of how much do we treat AI like a human being? And do we give them a personality? Do you give them a name? Do you give them more of a role in the company and get to something faster? Could this be a valued member of your team? When you think about how can I make this piece of my organization work smarter and have a perspective, actually instructing it to do that will be really, really interesting. But then you think about brands on social media in particular will go viral because they commented something funny on a post. Brands have these personalities. It's not too far off to say, let your AI tool have the same personality that your brand already stands for and interact with that with a client. Like nobody actually likes talking to a computer. And I think that's the other thing that stood out to me is with the natural language processing, you can have a normal human conversation with these AI models. And to think that we've gotten there so quickly, just in a couple of years, where you don't have to talk to these things like a computer. Where a couple of years ago we did. Even sometimes when you would put in a support case for something, you had to talk to these things like a computer, and that was before AI. We've moved really, really quickly into this space of speaking normally to a computer. So let's give it a little bit of personality and see where it goes from there. But I'm really excited from internal to external. What is that relationship like with your clients from there?
Letting everything sort of marinate in your mind now. What are the things that we should be doing with our clients that our clients should be thinking about moving forward? Your aha moment. For us, it sounds like it was a big validator. We're riding the wave. We're already embracing that change internally and with our clients.
If you don't already have a well constructed or thought process around how AI works for your company, you are way behind. And this isn't one person on the executive team saying, hey, I want them to do a recap of my meetings and then give me my notes. That is not what we're talking about here. How does it change your business? How can you add revenue? How can you make your folks more valuable? If you don't have an AI strategy in a almost like formal way that the company thinks about it, that is one thing that I feel like needs to be on every leadership offsite. What is our approach? And hey, by the way, like use AI to bounce some of these ideas. It's amazing what you can go back and forth with and find out what are your competitors doing? What is someone that maybe is totally out of your industry, but you pay attention to because they are pressing the boundaries in their industry. But like using some of those as maybe a benchmarking moment for your organization to just think really bigger about how AI impacts your business in a positive way. We're still thinking about running scared from some of the AI pieces, but there's so many more positive things that can come with AI that I feel like we're getting there. Folks are excited about it now and wrapping their arms around the idea of AI and how can it help me? Have your strategy, socialize it internally, take action on it, and have those conversations. And with LaunchPad, with us working with lots of different customers, hearing what other folks are doing and be able to bring those ideas to other industries or totally different types of businesses to say, have you thought about this? I think that's a value that we are adding to our clients in conversations that we're having every single day.
And the reality is, almost every business I'd be shocked if they don't, has some sort of digital presence. They have their website. From that digital presence, they typically 9 times out of 10 have a CRM, Salesforce being the ultimate CRM. And then when you sprinkle in this concept of AI, it's really something special because if you have a tailored, unique digital presence, then you have information funneling into Salesforce, and now you've got some sort of AI motion connecting everything together. The options for your business to really be truly unique, the opportunity is massive.
You just have to think so much bigger now. And the pace at which you can launch something is so much quicker. Something that could have taken a year may take a couple of months at most now with the speed and the tools that folks like LaunchPad are leveraging for our clients. And you mentioned digital experience, like everyone has it. And you have the personality around your organization, the value you bring, start to push on that more. And what do your clients love about what you're currently doing? And finding out from them how many folks are asking their customers, what have you always wished that we could provide for you? Because those possibilities are absolutely here now.
Well, and that's also where we shine
Mhm.
because that's what we do. We know how to build applications, portals, connect that into Salesforce, and there's going to have a massive impact and amazing opportunity for organizations to bring this all together, and we can help.
You want to work with a partner that's leaning into that, not one that's putting more FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt into your clients' minds. We are in that boat rowing in the same direction with our clients to see where can we take this, and probably in some ways challenging the conversation, maybe even to the point of are our clients a little uncomfortable with where this could go, but rather have that conversation earlier on than when it's too late and maybe your competition has shown up in a different way. Having those conversations now versus waiting for something to happen in the end of the year. Oh, we're waiting for this new technology. Oh, we want to see what regulations come out. There are things in place to be able to protect your organization with data. Let's just make it smarter.
Well, is there anything that you want to add in terms of Salesforce products? You mentioned Data Cloud, Heroku, all the different product lines are now having an Agentforce component associated with them.
The platform is just becoming more and more powerful. And I feel like every time you add another layer or cloud or product, it makes everything exponentially more actionable. And with Heroku, they've made a lot of investments over the last 2 years or so. We actually did some interviews with the Heroku team just to talk a little bit more about what Launchpad has been doing, what we've been seeing, why we're excited about Heroku. While we've been working with Heroku for years, we haven't wavered from that because it's such a solid platform with the backing of Salesforce. And again, just with the more recent investments and innovation that we're seeing come out on it, it is a very exciting time to have conversations around what could your digital experience look like without thinking about any confines of technology. The entire platform just being like so much more powerful with the addition of AI and Agentforce and other tools.
When you think about Salesforce specifically, most people think it's SaaS. It's the buy situation. You can rework the platforms based on what you need and get what you need out of it. With Heroku, that's the build conversation. That's the digital presence that you have out there that would then connect to your CRM or different systems. Where Heroku is really powerful is, especially for the Salesforce reps and organizations, is it gives you the ability to create that really powerful application fast and release it to market and get things happening smoothly and effectively because essentially it does the DevOps component for you. They're launching new features more and more to further enhance that. So you've got the buy side and the build side, and then again, it just becomes that much more impactful.
And you've got the scalability and kind of the safe side of it too. We've got clients that start with Heroku and maybe at some point they think, okay, I'm going to move off of it because I'll be able to manage it. And then that doesn't happen because it's so reliable. they can focus their energy in different areas of the business, knowing that this is super safe and secure on Heroku, and they can make iterations as needed and launch very, very quickly without having to burden their team with all of, like you mentioned, the DevOps piece and all the maintenance. That's all taken care of for you. And I think a lot about how Salesforce is to CRM, Heroku is to a digital experience, where a lot of that management is completely taken off of the client's plate. And you can customize with Salesforce. It's obviously a lot more drag and drop and no code, but you have those options where if there's something that you really want to create the experience of for your clients, and maybe Salesforce standard doesn't allow that flexibility, that's where Heroku really comes in, and you can totally customize exactly what you want for your clients. And we know that people are having to differentiate with an experience, and everyone's talking about the customer experience, which is kind of where AI kind of comes in, and how do you like supercharge that? That's the really nice part about Heroku being able to layer in and have all of the benefits of having the backing of Salesforce with all the flexibility that you want when you want to create something for your company, whether it's internal or your clients externally.
Well, this was great. Thank you for your time. Definitely lots to unpack. Looking forward to see what's next.